Hello, my kinder colleagues. We're here to look at the only life science PE for kindergarten, K-LS1-1. Again, because we are in the K2 grade span progression, we are dealing with foundational learning. In other words, building a solid foundation in which to build upon as our kiddos progress on through the 12th grade. K-LS1-1 deals with what plants and animals need to survive. One thing in this PE I would like to point out is that it states, quote, animals including humans, unquote. And I think this is an important distinction. We, humans, are animals. Some may argue that distinction. However, if we look at the scientific classification of all living things, we aren't plants, nor are we bacteria, or single-celled organisms, or fungi. That only leaves one thing, animals. So, scientifically, that's accurate. Also, in the bigger picture, we really want students to see that humans are part of this biosphere we call Earth, not separate from it. What we do affects other events on this planet to one degree or the other, and vice versa. It is important to begin with this foundational concept at the earliest of grades. Also, this concept will be a major part of one of your Earth and Space Science PEs that will be covered in an upcoming video. So stay tuned. Again, a good place to start is by looking at the clarification statement for this performance expectation. The clarification statement will give you ideas of how students can achieve this standard. I mention this because please remember, in order to achieve this standard, students must demonstrate their understanding of the standard. The clarification statement reads as follows. Examples of patterns could include that animals need to take in food but plants do not, the different kinds of food needed by different types of animals, the requirement of plants to have light, and that all living things need water. First off, I would like to make a clarification statement about the clarification statement. Plants do need to take in food in the way of nutrients, minerals, and water, just like all living things on this planet. They just do it in a different way. As a matter of fact, some plants actually trap animals and use digestive enzymes to break them down and absorb their nutrients. That sounds an awful lot like eating to me. Regardless, I'm hoping you see that this PE can be a lot of fun to teach and a lot of fun for students to learn. When thinking about this PE, or any PE for that matter, we want to start with phenomena that are local so our students have a connection with the real world they live in and around. Also, because these are 4- and 5-year-old children we're talking about, before we can start talking about what plants and animals need to survive, we should probably make sure they have an understanding of what a plant and an animal is. The following is a description of each for your general knowledge. Although plants come in a variety of sizes and shapes, generally they all have photosynthetic pigments that allow them to take in the sun's energy, mix it with carbon dioxide and water, and make sugar. The sugar can be stored, think fruits and vegetables, or used pretty much like our cells use sugar, that is, to use as an energy source. A real cool thing about plants is that they produce oxygen as sort of a waste product from this process described above that we refer to as photosynthesis. Also, because plants don't have bones for support, their cells contain a structure called a cell wall that supports the plant. A really good example of this is the crunch you feel when you eat a stalk of celery or a crunchy apple. Animal cells do not have cell walls, and that is a big distinction between plant and animal cells. The somewhat technical definition of an animal is that they are multicellular, eukaryotic heterotrophs whose cells do not contain cell walls. I know, a lot of words. Let's break it down. All animals are multicellular. In other words, all animals contain more than one cell. The eukaryotic part talks about the type of cell, eukaryotic cells, as opposed to prokaryotic cells, which are basically types of bacteria. So, more or less, other than bacteria, all other organisms on this planet have eukaryotic cells, animals being one of them. Heterotrophic means that animals have to eat in order to get energy and parts to build and rebuild themselves. Basically, animals either eat plants, something that ate a plant, or both. Also, as mentioned before, animal cells do not contain cell walls. There you have it. With regards to the disciplinary core idea for this PE, it basically says what I described above, that animals need food and water to live and grow, and that they get their food from plants, something that ate a plant, or both. Also, that plants need light and water to survive. Also worth mentioning is that this PE does not have an assessment boundary, which sometimes is the case, so this is truly a foundational subject. Also worth mentioning is that the students will take the California Science Assessment, or CAST, during 5th grade in elementary school. Although the test is taken in 5th grade, the test covers material learned in their first progression, TK through 2, and built upon in their second progression, grades 3 through 5. So the 5th grade teacher is really a proctor for this exam as it covers material from each of the grades. Now let's check the foundation boxes to see about how the 3 dimensions of the NGSS is applied with this performance expectation. Of the 8 SEPs, or Science and Engineering Practices, always in blue by the way, analyzing and interpreting data is the focus of this performance expectation. So, we would want students to be exposed to various plant and animal situations that would allow students to come to the understanding put forth by the disciplinary core ideas. Another point to consider here is that, please remember, even though the PE focuses on one science and engineering practices, all 8 of the practices are in play at any given moment, depending on how you plan to teach the lesson. Also, all 8 SEPs are the same practices that students will see from TK kindergarten through the 12th grade. The more students see and utilize them in the elementary grades, the better they will be prepared to use them in middle and high school. In the green box, we see that the cross-cutting concept we're focusing on in this performance expectation is patterns. Again, all 7 are in play and, like the SEPs, are the same concepts that students will see through the 12th grade. In the case of patterns, we'd want students to be exposed to a number of opportunities to see plants and animals in their natural habitat and to pick up on patterns of what they see with regards to what they need to survive. This can be done by using a bulletin board that shows student work as they attempt to discover patterns of what plants and animals need to survive. The sky is the limit here, but the important part is to use your creativity and imagination in discovering fun ways for the student to attempt understanding on this PE. We previously mentioned the DCIs, always in orange. With the fact that all animals need food and get it from plants, something that eats plants or both, and that plants need water and light to survive. Ways to achieve this are a survey of plants and animals via stories, video clips, and other means so that students have a good grasp on what plants and animals are. Along the way, use creative ways for students to identify and chart the things both organisms need to survive. For example, you could take your students on a playground safari to notice the local plants and animals, perhaps taking pictures of each and making a collage of them on a designated bulletin board. Another fun activity is to plant lima bean seeds in a plastic cup and let students watch them as they grow. One thing that immediately stands out are the large cream white roots of the plant. Once the plant sprouts its first set of leaves, you could have students use watercolor or tempera paint to predict what the plant will look like when it matures. Think modeling. You could even dictate at the bottom of their painting their thoughts on the process. Most importantly, start simple and let the process build as you develop a feeling for these new standards. Lastly, let's take a look at the connection boxes of this PE. The first box shows no other connection to this PE in kindergarten. As I mentioned, this is the only life science standard in kinder, and so that makes sense. The second box shows that this standard will also be covered in 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 5th grades. Finally, the last box shows how this PE could be connected to both the Common Core State Standards, ELA, and Mathematics Standards. I hope this video helps you better understand this NGSS performance expectation. As always, if you have any questions about this video or other science-related items, please contact one of our science team members for help. Also, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel in order to better access this and other science education videos. Thank you.